We're back down in the fish room and we're going to show you guys how I smoke ribs. And the reason I'm doing this, I've seen so many videos out there and I hear so many people talk about ribs and competition ribs and competition that and a certain cut of meat and all that type of stuff. And while I totally respect the people that do that stuff for competition, I like ribs just to make ribs and I like to eat them. And I also think that a lot of people are intimidated by making ribs. So I'm going to take you step by step how I do my smoked ribs. And I think you'll see it's not intimidating at all. It's really a pretty easy process. It just takes a little bit of time, but the result is awesome. And I don't pretend to be competition ribs or anything. I make ribs to eat. I can tell you I got a lot of friends that like to eat my ribs. So let's get started and I'll show you how I do my smoked ribs. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our rib, and on the back of the rib you'll see there's a kind of a silver, it's a membrane on there. Some people leave that on to hold the flavor, some people take it off. I choose to take it off. That's what I like to do. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the knife and we're going to get under that membrane, kind of in between a rib. If you just take a butter knife, something that's dull, and you work it under there, you'll see the thin part, and you can get that knife under that membrane. And then I'm just going to turn that knife and work that a little bit and pull it to one side. Now where the paper towel comes in really handy is it just gives you a good grip on that because it's a little wet. So we'll just grab the end of that membrane and we'll slowly pull to the end of the rib. And if we're lucky, it'll come off in one nice piece. We'll re-grab closer and we'll pull. So now that we have that off, we can discard that. That's just garbage, and we'll set that aside. Now that the membrane's off, we're going to go ahead and put some gloves on and then season the rib. And if you guys don't like yellow mustard, don't stop watching now, because I do not like yellow mustard. But all we're using it for is a binder to hold the seasoning onto the ribs, and the final product, you'll have no idea that mustard was on there. Now if you're allergic or something like that, that's a totally different thing. But if you're worried about the taste or anything like that, trust me, you're not going to taste it in the final product. So we're going to take our mustard, and we don't have to get crazy with the mustard. We're just going to take the mustard, and I just kind of zigzag back and forth, and it doesn't take much. That's about all you need to put on the rib, and we're just going to smear that around on the rib. So we're going to get the bone side, and we're going to get all the edges right now with that mustard. And again, if you don't like mustard, don't worry about it. It's not going to be on the end product. We're just putting this on there so that our seasoning sticks to it. Now we're going to take our seasoning. I'll just take the Famous Dave's rub rib now, and I'll liberally put that onto the rib. And we'll get the rib good and covered with the seasoning. And guys, you can experiment with all kinds of seasoning. This just happens to be one that I can readily get here in the stores and that everybody likes the flavor, so that's what I use. So we got the edges good. Now we're gonna just sprinkle this on, and again, be good and liberal with it. I should have mentioned that I have this laying in cellophane because we're gonna wrap this when it's done. So we'll just take our rib now and we're gonna flip that in the cellophane. Now we're gonna take our mustard again. And I'm just going to do that same pattern across the top. And like I said, you don't need a ton of mustard. So we'll take our seasoning, Famous Dave's in this case, put it on pretty liberal onto the rib, get it good and coated. And all we're going to do now is we're going to take our cellophane and we're going to make sure that we get the rib sealed up nice and tight. Wrap him up good. Get the ends folded over. Get that folded over real nice like that and sealed up. We're going to take it and we're going to put it in the fridge overnight. And then in the morning, we'll take the cellophane off and we'll get it on our smoker. So that's the first step of smoked ribs. I've got 3 more racks I'm going to do. We're going to have a few people over tomorrow night for dinner. So I'm going to go ahead and get those all done in the fridge. Next time you see me, we'll be putting these on the smoker. All right, it's the next morning. Our ribs have been in the fridge all night, marinating with our seasoning and our mustard coat that we put on in the first step of this. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get our grill smoker started. I've got a Camp Chef 24-inch. It's a Wi-Fi pellet grill. I really like it. If you guys are interested in future videos on that, let me know. It has a startup mode on it, so we're gonna go ahead and get that started. And we'll let that start up. We need to wait for this to get smoking and get started. Leave the lid open and we'll just keep an eye on it. It takes about 6 or 7 minutes for it to start up, so we'll probably fast forward to when we put the ribs on. Well, the grill has finished its startup cycle. Now we're gonna warm it up and we're gonna set it. And with the Camp Chef, they have, the one I have, it's a Wi-Fi, so I can do it with my phone. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna set the temperature to 185, and I'm gonna set the smoke at 9 out of 10 for heavy smoke. And now what we're gonna do is go ahead and put our ribs on. So we put all 4 ribs on, bone down. You want the meaty part of the rib up, and then I like to make sure they have good spacing. When you're doing the smoke part, you don't want the meat touching each other and real close. You wanna make sure that it's got plenty of space around each piece of meat so that the smoke can circulate and get all the edges and all the parts of the meat. So we're gonna go ahead and put these in here at 185. I've got the smoke set on high, and we're gonna leave those for 3 hours. And then we'll come back and we'll show you the next step. All right, it's been 3 hours since we put our ribs on at 185 degrees and high smoke. So we're gonna get those off now, and then we're gonna go to the next step of the rib process. So they're a little warm at this point, so if you, depending on how sensitive your hands are, you can put some cloth gloves underneath your rubber gloves. At this step, the ribs aren't that hot yet, so I just grab them with the rubber glove. So you can see we got a real nice bark on the ribs now. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and put them in foil with honey and some brown sugar and some apple juice. And we'll do that next. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we took our rib and we laid it down on our foil. I take 2 layers of heavy duty foil because we're going to put apple juice in this and we don't want anything to leak out. And we also want to make sure that we put it meat down, bone side up. And you'll see that the rib is curved like this, and that's going to keep our ingredients in here and really help them soak down through the rib. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take some brown sugar. Move that around on the meat so we got it covered around pretty good. And this is going to melt and soak into that meat. So we got our brown sugar coating. Then we're going to take some honey, and I'm just going to drizzle that on the rib. Don't be shy. Now I'm going to take my aluminum foil and I'm going to make a boat out of this. So I'm going to fold it up on both sides like this. And I want to have plenty here so I can seal it, because what we're going to do is we're basically steaming the rib inside of here. And then we'll fold over our ends real good. Take your time and do it right so that you keep the apple juice in the foil. So now that we have that boat, you can see how we've kind of built a boat for the rib. We're going to take our apple juice. We want to fill up the foil that we've got plenty of juice all the way around the rib. And I'm just going to kind of wait for it to start. Now I see it coming on the other side of the rib. And we'll just make sure that's all in there, maybe a little bit more. Because what this apple juice is going to do is it's going to, when we put it back on, we're going to put it on for 2 hours, and this apple juice is going to steam, and it's going to soften our rib up and cook it really nice. So now what we're going to do is fold these ends in and pull these 2 together like this. And then I just want to fold this over really nice and tight. We've got the rib and the aluminum foil with our brown sugar, honey, and apple juice. We're going to do the other 3, and then we'll put these back on the grill or on the smoker, but we're going to turn the smoke all the way down because obviously the smoke can't penetrate the aluminum. We're going to cook it up to about 190, 195, and we're gonna put these on the smoker for 2 hours. So we'll get the other 3 ribs done, and then we'll meet you at the grill when we put them back on. All right, we'll close that up, and they're good to go for 2 hours. All right, 2 hours is up. So we've been in our aluminum boats with the apple juice, brown sugar, and honey. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the ribs out of those aluminum boats. And admittedly, guys, this is a little bit of a messy part of it. You'll see I've got a bucket here, and you just have to take your time and be careful. It is hot now, so I do put on a pair of cloth gloves underneath my rubber gloves. You can't grab hot coals with this, but it does help with the heat a little bit, because we're actually going to have to touch the ribs, and we're going to have to unfold that hot foil. So I'm going to get started doing that. You can see now how our rib has started to soften up, and it started to pull back from the rib bones a little bit. So you can see that that's starting to happen. So, and you can see how that juice in there created a bath for that rib. Our brown sugar and our honey is completely dissolved down into that rib. So now we're carefully going to get the rib out of here. So like I said, I just keep a bucket here, and I do my best to get this out of here, and then I just go right into the bucket with it. And if we got a little excess on the rib, we'll leave that on there and just sit that up on there. And now what I do too is when I put these back on, I flip them bone side down. So we're gonna go ahead and get the rest of these ribs out of the aluminum foil. We'll get them all boned down, and we'll get back with you in a minute. So we got the ribs out of the foil packs. We got them all bone side down. And then what we did is we sauced them. We turned the heat up on the pellet grill to 245 and the smoke up to a medium. And we're gonna let those cook now. A little controversial, some people let them cook to 195. I like to let them cook to like 206, 205. I like more of the fat to be rendered out of them. But if you like more of the fat in your ribs, then you can pull them at 195. So when we get to the desired temperature, we'll get back to you. All right, we've got to the end, to the last hour of our cook. We had the ribs in there boned down. We basted them with barbecue sauce. They're all done. They range in temperature across the ribs from about 195 to 203. And we're gonna take them off now, put them on the cookie sheet, wrap them with foil, let them rest for about 15 minutes, and then we'll cut them open and we'll do a taste test. And they look pretty darn good, I must say. All right, our ribs have sat for 15 minutes and we've had them under foil. So we're gonna go ahead and cut into this baby and see what happens. So we'll just get along a bone here. We'll just cut down along a bone. Let's flip that baby over. So you can see a nice smoke ring around here that we've got, a little bit of fat. I can tell already, guys, this is gonna be delicious. So I'm just gonna cut a little piece off of here. You can tell how nice and easy it comes off the bone. All right, let's try a piece of this. Telling you guys, you follow what I did, you can't screw these up. People will love them. They'll think you're awesome. You won't be a world champion barbecue rib guy, but I'm telling you what, you're gonna have a lot of friends if you make these. Stay tuned, we got more really good stuff coming for you. Thanks for watching.